The tech stack that builds billion-dollar companies is boring, and that's exactly why it works. Before you hire anyone, before you spend a single dollar on a freelancer, you're going to make one decision that outlives every feature, every pivot, and every redesign, what your product is built on. Get it right and hiring gets easy, scaling gets cheap, and you never rewrite. Get it wrong and you pay a tax on every single week of your company's life. I run Develo, where we evaluate and upskill software developers on one specific stack, which I'll show you in a minute. So I've watched hundreds of projects succeed and fail from the inside, and I can tell you the stack decision is almost never made with data. It's made with hype. Today we fix that. Real numbers, real companies, real trade-offs, and at the end, how to make sure the freelancer you hire actually knows this stack instead of just claiming to. Let's start with the receipts because the pattern is going to surprise you. Instagram. When Facebook bought it for $1 billion in 2012, Instagram had 13 employees, 13, serving 30 million users, and the stack behind it, Python and Django, a framework that was already 5 years old and deeply unfashionable, with PostgreSQL as the database, running on rented cloud servers. No exotic architecture, no custom database, a small team on boring tools, and every saved hour went into the product, WhatsApp. In 2015, Wired ran a story with a headline that should be taped to every founder's monitor. WhatsApp only needs 50 engineers to serve 900 million users. 50. And here's the nuance. WhatsApp used Erlang, which is not a mainstream language. So is that the opposite lesson? No, it's the same lesson. Erlang was purpose-built for exactly one thing, massive concurrent messaging. And WhatsApp was a massive concurrent messaging company, run by specialists who knew the tool cold. They didn't pick it because it was trendy. They picked it because it fit. That's the rule. Fit and mastery beat fashion every time. Shopify. Their core application is one Ruby on Rails codebase, a monolith, with over 2.8 million lines of code in continuous development for almost 20 years, powering millions of merchants through the biggest flash sale traffic spikes on the internet. Their engineering team says it plainly. They split pieces out only when there's a very good reason, because a distributed system multiplies complexity. GitHub, and where the world's code lives, same story, Rails monolith. And when a big company goes the other way, Amazon's own Prime Video team published a case study in 2023. They took a service built as trendy serverless microservices, collapsed it back into a monolith, and cut its infrastructure cost by 90%. 90. Amazon, the company that sells the microservices. So the receipts say small teams, boring proven tools, one code base, and every ounce of attention on the product. Now let's add the market data because there's a second force here that founders always miss, the talent pool. Every year, Stack Overflow surveys tens of thousands of developers about what they actually use. The 2025 numbers. JavaScript is used by about 2/3 of all developers, 66%. React is the dominant front-end framework at 45%, with Node powering the back-end for 49%. Angular, 18% and falling. Why should you, a founder, care what developers use? Because the stack you choose is a hiring market you're entering. Choose a niche stack and you've married your first developer, whether they're good or not. Your stack is not a technology decision. It's a liquidity decision. Put the receipts and the data together and you get the stack I recommend to every non-technical founder. And full disclosure is the exact stack we upskill and evaluate developers on at develo.com, precisely because the data keeps pointing at it. TypeScript end-to-end, JavaScript with a safety net that catches bugs before your users do. React with Next.js on the front end, the 45% pool, with a framework that handles speed and SEO out of the box. Node on the back end, same language front and back, so one developer covers your whole product. That alone can have your payroll. PostgreSQL for your data, the most used, most loved database on earth, and it does 99% of what any startup will ever need. Redis for caching, and managed cloud, Versal or AWS, so nobody is babysitting servers at 3 in the morning. One language, one code base, one database, the deepest talent pools in the world at every layer. Now the trade-offs, because I want you making this decision like an investor, not a fan. Monolith versus microservices. A monolith is one code base, one deploy. Simple, fast to build, cheap to run, and one place to look when something breaks. Microservices are dozens of small apps talking over a network. They let 1,000 engineers work without stepping on each other, which is a problem you do not have. For a startup, microservices mean paying Google scale complexity costs on day one. Rule of thumb, Monolith until at least 20 engineers. Shopify runs millions of merchants on one. You'll be fine. SQL versus no SQL. Postgres forces your data into clean, structured tables, slightly more thought up front than decades of reliability, and it answers questions you haven't thought of yet. No SQL like Mongo is flexible early, but that flexibility quietly becomes chaos. No enforced structure means the mess is discovered later at the worst time. Default to Postgres, reach for no SQL only for a specific name reason. Serverless versus servers. Serverless scales to zero and costs nothing when nobody's using your app, perfect for day one. But at constant heavy traffic, it gets expensive. That's the prime video story. Start serverless friendly on managed hosting. Move hot paths to a plain server when the bill says so. That migration is easy in the stack I just gave you, and shiny versus boring. Every year there's a new framework with beautiful benchmarks and no answers on Stack Overflow. Boring technology is a feature. 10 years of solved problems, of documentation, of people who can maintain it. Save your innovation budget for your product. It's the only place innovation pays you. One more trade-off, and this one is pure money. Build versus rent. Login and authentication, rent it. Auth 0, clerk, Supabase, solved problems, hardened by billions of logins. Payments, rent Stripe, emails, rent Resend or SendGrid. File storage, rent S3. Every one of those is a service that costs less per month than 1 day of developer time, and every one of them is a thing amateur builds get catastrophically wrong. I have seen homemade login systems that store passwords in plain text in production with real customers. The billion-dollar pattern isn't we built everything. It's we built the one thing that makes us different and rented everything else. Your developer should be assembling proven parts around your unique product. If they're excited to hand-build authentication, that's not craftsmanship. That's a red flag. Next, 5 system design ideas, 60 seconds, so you can actually follow a conversation with your developer and spot someone faking one. Load balancer, a traffic cop that spreads users across copies of your app. This is horizontal scaling, more copies, and versus vertical, a bigger machine. Horizontal is how everything scales now, and is why your app must be built stateless from day one. Cache. Redis keeps the answers to repeated questions in memory, so you're not asking the database the same thing 1,000 times a second. Most we need to rewrite is slow conversations are actually one missing cache. CDN, copies of your images and pages stored physically near your users, is why your site loads fast in Sydney with your server in Virginia. Read replicas, copies of your database that handle the reading, while one primary handles the writing. The standard first move when the database gets busy. And queues. When something is slow, like sending 10,000 emails, you don't make the user wait. You put the job in a line and a worker chews through it in the background. 2 more because they decide whether your company survives its own success. Single point of failure, any piece of your system that takes everything down with it when it dies. 1 server, 1 database, no backups. That's not a tech stack, that's a bet. The question to ask your developer is beautifully simple. What happens if this box dies at 2 a.m. on our biggest day? A professional has an answer before you finish the sentence. Backups, a replica, a redeploy path, and finally, the migration tax, the cost of changing your mind later. Good architecture keeps decisions reversible. Swapping a cache, adding a queue, moving hosts, cheap moves. Bad architecture welds everything together, so the only way out is a rewrite. This is the real reason the stack I gave you wins. Every piece of it has a well-worn upgrade path walked by thousands of companies before you. You don't need to implement any of that. You need to recognize it, because here's the part of this video that will actually save you money. Ability is easy to claim and hard to see. When you post a job tomorrow, every applicant will claim your stack. And here's what the claims hide. The market shift is so fast that there are developers whose resume says Angular from a boot camp in 2019, who have actually been prompting AI to write React ever since, and who cannot explain a single line of what got generated. They're not lying about knowing the framework. They're vibe coding on top of it. The resume says engineer. The reality is a passenger. You can't detect that from a resume because resumes are claims, so screen against evidence. Ask for links to shipped products that are still running and click them. Ask one system design question from the list you just learned. How would you make this page faster? And listen for the words cache, CDN, replica. A real engineer answers in trade-offs. A passenger answers in buzzwords. Then pay for a 1-week test project, tightly scoped. Real money before the real one, and then watch what happens the first time they're wrong. That test is worth more than 10 interviews. Or let the exam be done for you. This is exactly why Develo exists. We don't take a developer's word for their stack. We evaluate them on this stack. The TypeScript, React, Node, Postgres stack, hands-on, and rate what they can actually build and maintain. So instead of guessing whether the Angular on the resume is real, you hire against a verified score. And the reason this matters isn't hiring for hiring's sake. It's what it buys you. Every hour a verified professional spends maintaining your systems is an hour you spend with customers. Your product is built right once, on a stack the whole market can maintain, by someone who's proven they can, and you never look back at the code because you're too busy looking at revenue. Founders on customers, professionals on code. That's the whole model, and now you have the stack, the data, and the screen for it. I've put all of it into a free playbook, the stack blueprint, the system design cheat sheet, the exact screening questions, and the 1-week test project I use, plus how we verify developers at Develo. Book a free call at calendly.com/woobrendan7, link in the description, and I'll walk you through it personally for your specific product. Pick the boring stack, hire the proven professional, build the company. I'll see you in the next one.